Today on the Dennis Michael Lynch Show, we're going to be discussing the Brown University investigation and how horrible it looks like it's unfolding. Also, Obamacare. The amount of money we're going to be paying for premiums are incredibly high. This is something Trump's going to have to address, or the economy is going to fall out. And we've got some good news about the Trump administration, finally, that we could share with you. We're excited for today, and it's going to be all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. We're going to get right into it. We have a lot to unpack for you, and we have a wide-ranging show today, so strap in there. And if you're on Facebook, please hit the share button. If you are listening on X, hit the retweet button. And that would be very helpful. One other thing I just want to put out there for Team DML members, please know when you go into Team DML and you start looking around, you're going to say, well, are things changing around here? The answer to that is yes. So we are doing daily updates and just doing things in real time. So everything should be settled out within the next couple of days, and you'll see a new look, and you'll also have an opportunity for a new app for Team DML Direct. Brown University. This is a embarrassment. It really is an embarrassment. I mean, from the DEI platform that is on display at every press conference to the lack of transparency and an investigation that just looks like people who are serving their first day on the job are handling this. And I could only imagine what it must be like for the parents of Ella Cook, the 19-year-old who was murdered. As we told you yesterday, she was a shining star, a very rare bird, if you will, a beautiful bird at that, at Brown University, which is laden with far leftists. I think the numbers I saw, there was about 7,500 undergraduates and literally a handful of conservatives there. She was one of them. And so first thing I wonder to myself is, what are the odds that a Republican, especially the VP of the Republican club, female, who was very active on campus, did not hold back her beliefs, her Christian beliefs, or her Republican beliefs. She didn't hold any of it back. They said that she was polite, courteous, open for conversation, but that she was not embarrassed by who she prays to and who she votes for. And in fact, I was reading one thing today that she was big into the pro-life movement, as you would imagine, as a Christian and as a conservative. So when you look at the numbers and you say, okay, there's 60 plus people in this study hall, and there are 7,500 students, what are the odds that the vice president of the Republican club, who is an attractive female who proudly showcases her conservatism and her Christianity, how could that not be a target? And for this shooter to have gone in and conduct the sort of murder that he did on the day that he did, Saturday, tells me that this guy was very familiar with all aspects of everything Brown University. And I'll dive into that. What I mean is, you got to think that he knew the people. You know that he knew the building and that there were going to be limited, if any, cameras in there. He knew that it was going to be unlocked because of, opening the doors for people to come in and come out with the testing studies and all the other stuff. And why did he pick that specific room? How did he know that there was going to be an abundance of people there on a Saturday during finals? I'm not a professional investigator. I'm not a detective. I have no formal training. At one point in my life, I was, I guess you would call, an investigative filmmaker, where I went down and with my border activities, I would investigate where things were coming in from, how they worked, and I uncovered a lot. But I think it's not something that you need to get a PhD in. I mean, my stepfather was a leading homicide detective for a long time in Long Island. He doesn't have a graduate's degree. He doesn't have a college degree, at that matter. So a lot of this is common sense. And so where are the leads? Where are the information? Where are the things that people need to know? Now, I understand that an investigation has to be somewhat kept very close to the vest, because if too much information gets out, it can soil the investigation. I understand this. And I understand that the public often feels like it is entitled to information, which it really is not. However, when you've got a situation like we have here, where it seems to be that a limited amount of knowledge at all is known about this shooter, and when we had a young man have his life destroyed, this young man, Erickson, last name Erickson, Benjamin Erickson, that his face was published all over the place. And, you know, he was automatically the guilty white guy with an army background. You know, they detain the wrong person. They lead the public into thinking they've got the right person. They tell everybody, okay, all is clear. And then they release him and tell you, oh, no, I don't. I mean, this is a botched investigation from the beginning. Imagine being the parents of Ella Cook. If I was her father, I would be in Providence, Rhode Island right now saying, move out of my way. I'm going to do this myself. Now, clearly, you can't do that. You'll either be arrested or stopped 50 different ways to Sunday. But I would be doing everything I possibly could, including hiring private investigators. Because when you look at the boneheads that are up on that dais, I mean, you've got to scratch your head. So, first of all, the one big clue that we have that everybody who was interviewed sort of agreed with was that this guy screamed something, yelled something before he fired. And as I told you in the very beginning when this all happened, yelling something before firing, I mean, maybe it's a little bit getting ahead of ourselves here, but Allah Akbar is always the champion chant for the Muslim extremist. And I shouldn't really even call him a Muslim extremist. I'm buying into that narrative. You know, Islam, there is no such thing as extreme Islam. This Islam, and that's it. We're going to play here for you a video of a press conference where the police chief, Oscar Perez from Colombia, he is asked directly about, hey, why don't you tell us what this guy yelled? Maybe it helps the investigation. You ready, Ryan? Play it.
Now, there's a report the shooter yelled something right before his shot came in. Could you tell us what that was?
Yeah, it's part of the investigation, John, and
Now, the only reason I ask that, though, is, for instance, like with the Unabomber, his brother recognized the writing. So it's possible a friend or family member might recognize if the person said something that was significant.
correct.
That's why you don't, other than the 9mm, is there anything else inside that auditorium that you could tell us?
No, that's correct. And listen, like I said earlier, investigations will bring us to evidence that we need to collect in order to be able to prosecute. With that being said, we're going to continue to collect evidence, and if it leads us to something to that nature that's going to be extremely helpful for us to identify somebody, we'll be the first ones to put it out.
Alex, on John's question, did the suspect yell like has been reported, and there's been some erroneous reporting, but did he yell when he came to the classroom? And how valuable have witness statements been from those who survived?
Listen, my heart goes out to the victims. It goes out to the families, and I'll tell you that their cooperation has been extremely helpful. And that, with that being said, we'll continue, and I'm gonna respect the fact that, and I hope that they get better. And my heart and soul goes out to them. So,
Did he yell though? Did
so that's something that we're investigating. We took statements, and we have to confirm that.
So,
A few questions for somebody.
we're gonna wrap it up here.
I mean, I don't know about you, but Perez doesn't look like he could find his ass with both hands, let alone he's going to find the murderer. I mean, come on. They're going to collect the evidence. They're collecting evidence. They're collecting evidence. And the bigger thing is, why won't he tell us what this man screamed? And the reporter made a very good point. Look, if he screamed something specific, and it's not, Allah Akbar, if he screams something like, in the name of Palestine, all right, well, we could limit it down. We know that this guy is going to be a pro-Palestine dude. Let's start taking a look at every single last angle there. I mean, the guy said, if he said something, maybe a relative or friend or neighbor or somebody in an apartment complex would be like, yeah, I've heard that guy say that 50,000 times, but they're not releasing that. And there are certain times when using the public is definitely a benefit. It is definitely a benefit. This would be one of those times, because with each day that passes, the investigation, the ability to find this psychopath gets more in favor of the psychopath than it does the police. And when you've got a guy like that leading things, he's got a chip on his shoulder to begin with, right? He's an immigrant from Colombia. I mean, this guy was hired as the chief of police. He was hired during the Obama era, where DEI was fashionable, where you didn't hire somebody based on their qualifications. You hired somebody based on their skin and how it is that you can put up on a poster that you too are somebody who believes in DEI, that you're going to hit the quotas. This is what you see in these leftist cities. Perez does not come off as somebody who's a super sleuth, does he? Let me ask you it this way. If you were the father or the mother or the grandparent of Ella Cook and you were watching this, would you say, all right, I feel confident, at least we got this guy on the case? I beg differently. I would be saying this guy is going to botch everything, and I'd be freaking out. The next video we're going to show you, I mean, this is how asinine. They show us videos of the alleged killer, the suspect that they're tracking right now. These videos aren't from Providence, where Brown University is. This is Providence in the streets around the university. So clearly what's happening is these cops, these investigators, are spending all day long going to knock on doors. Think about the human resources this is taking. Going to knock on doors and saying, do you have any video? Now, I think we know already that in these videos, what we're going to see is this guy's wearing a jacket and a mask and a hat on top of his head to the point of where he's concealed his face. So the only thing, and we have no more on this because Perez and team haven't told us, but I imagine you could keep on knocking on the doors to try to find the path to which this guy took. Why they're not sharing that with the public is insane. It is absolutely insane. Here is the press conference and the video that the people are supposed to look at and suddenly be like, oh yeah, I know who it is. Play the video.
Again, we're asking for the public assistance in identifying this individual that we're about to show you, and we'll release this video on Twitter, on our Twitter account momentarily. I'm going to turn to the video behind us. I'll be able to show you in 2 seconds. Officer Mangan, if you can just activate and put the videos up.
So this is the first video that we're showing you. This is the individual walking. It's on the sidewalk of Benevolent. And this is prior to the incident. Here we go again with is this video too, Mike? Again, you see him walking. Move on to the third video. These are some photos of this individual. And they will all be time-stamped.
I mean, folks, we've got better video of Sasquatch, right? I mean, think about this. You couldn't have more worse videos. This guy is holding press conferences to show videos of Blur. This is the time and resources being given. Oh, yeah, we want to come out to the general public. We're not going to tell you what he said when he fired his weapon, but we're going to show you images of the back of somebody's head as they walk. Now, you can make an argument that if somebody has an idea in their head like, oh, boy, I wonder if that's Joe. You know, he kept on talking crazy stuff. And, boy, that definitely looks like Joe's gait, you know, when he walks. Let me tell you, that person's not going to probably turn in Joe. This is going nowhere fast. I'd be shocked if Perez and company come and tell you anything anytime soon. Then the other thing about this brainless chief of police DEI hire, he's sending mixed messages. Here's the next clip. Listen to how it is that the reporter basically says, hey, sir, you're basically contradicting yourself. You're telling the people in town that they're safe, and at the same time as you're telling us that there's a guy who's armed and dangerous at large. Which is it? Go.
Continue to try to reassure the public that they are safe, but you also just said that this person you believe is armed and dangerous. So how can both be true?
Well, yeah, right. And that's something that's unknown, but like the mayor stated, I'll tell you that we have enhanced enforcement in that area. We have, Steph stated earlier, we have a lot of officers in the area. So in that sense, it's going to be safe. But however, as well, I just want to remind the community that our priority in law enforcement and in the city is to keep our constituents safe, keep them informed, and to keep them committed to understand that we're a professional, we're dedicated, we're going to put somebody in handcuffs, and we're going to continue to do this job. So I want to...
Yeah. So then one more video I want to show you. I mean, one more video. As if it couldn't get any worse. It does. Let's give you the video. And again, I'm asking you, please. You're a relative. You're the father. You're the mother. You're the grandparent of Ella Cook. You've just lost your precious 19-year-old who wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And you tune in to hear the press conference. And this is what you hear. Play.
Gracias, sí, verdaderamente estamos acá esta noche para demostrarles los highlights del progreso que hemos hecho en el departamento y quiero identificar que es una colaboración del Departamento de la Policía de Providence, el personal de este departamento, también incluye las policías del estado, obviamente los federales, partners de nosotros.
So think about that. You've got the DEI chief of police giving his presser in Spanish. As if the illegal alien in town is going to be like, yeah, I know who did it. Or maybe they do. Let's give you a little something you need to know about Chief Perez, if you don't know this already. Like I said, he came over from Colombia. He's an immigrant. I guess we couldn't get anybody from Providence who was born and raised. Again, we had to go to the DEI. But here's maybe the most interesting thing about this guy. You ready for this one? Perez's nephew, Jazrul Jas Perez, who's about 37 years old. They say they're not sure if he's 36, 37, was a leader of a large-scale fentanyl trafficking organization operating across multiple states, including from Rhode Island. Josh Perez was described by prosecutors as a kingpin who distributed millions of counterfeit fentanyl-laced pills. Fentanyl, the number one killing narcotic. Fentanyl. This guy's nephew is a freaking drug lord. Josh Perez pleaded guilty to federal charges, and in late 2024, early 2025, he was sentenced to 22 years in prison. His appeal for a reduced sentence was denied. Josh Perez is also the nephew of Providence Police Sergeant Andres Perez, creating family ties within the department. This led to FBI scrutiny in 2023 of potential connections between the drug ring and the police department. So, I mean, I don't mean to laugh at the pain of the Cook family, but I mean, come on. Come on. This is the best. America has fallen so far from grace. And, you know, it's not like this is a one-off. The whole DEI thing, really, it put lives at danger. It still does. The aftermath puts lives at danger, and it puts a stain on America that we have fallen so far down off the perch that we once got ourselves up to. It's not just Rhode Island. Yesterday, you may have seen on my Facebook page another story, another DEI. The GOP House Oversight Committee, there's a new report, and it alleges that DEI hire D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith manipulated crime data to artificially lower crime stats under her control, under her time. Smith reportedly pressured commanders to report lower crime, pressured commanders to pursue lesser charges that aren't publicly recorded, including serious crimes, required certain crimes to be reviewed by her office, and punished commanders for reporting accurate data. This is the Democrats. This is the DEI. How many people, think about this, this would be a great test, a great quiz. How many crimes do you believe were probably marked off as individual being white when the individual wasn't white? This is the kind of crap that we're hiring. This is what DEI brings you back. Now, personally, what I want is I want the FBI to take over the Brown investigation. Now, in order to do that, the FBI would have to demonstrate, A, that it wasn't getting done correctly by the authorities there in Providence, and would have to make an argument that the crime crossed state lines. There's got to be a way that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino can make that happen. In fact, this is a total side note, but rumor is that Dan Bongino is maybe on his way out, that I think he's had enough. And no doubt in my mind that Dan Bongino sees all the activity that's going on in the podcast world and probably misses it extensively. And probably also doesn't like the fact that he's number two and he wants to be number one. And I could tell you this, I'd like to see him be number one. I just would. I just like to see him be number one. Unless his entire last 10 years was a complete fake, which I don't believe it was, he has the passion and the intelligence to get things done. And I don't know. Either way, the FBI should be involved in the Brown University investigation, or else we're never going to come to the bottom of it. This person who entered that school did it in such a way to where they felt as if they could get away with the crime, covering their face, going into a building where clearly there were no cameras where there should have been. And, each day that passes, this guy gets further and further away. And it's a real shame. And my prayers and my thoughts go out to Ella Cook and her family, because they deserve so much better than a guy who's going to lead his press conferences in Spanish and really has no right being where he is, just let alone with his family's ties to fentanyl drug trafficking. I mean, my God, are we now the third world or what? Speaking of the FBI, moving on, the FBI was amazing because yesterday during the show, I had said to you about how it is that the FBI gets threats every day, terror threats every day. And some of them are never revealed to you because some of them just turn out to be BS, but they have to investigate every single one. And then lo and behold, an hour after we're done with the show, news comes out that the FBI had actually prevented a massive terror attack that was planned for New Year's Eve. Here is the FBI giving a press conference, at least giving some information. I'll fill in the rest for you, but some information about what it is that they found and what was about to take place.
In November 2025, Defendant Carroll created a detailed bombing plot to use explosive devices to attack 5 or more locations across Southern California on this upcoming New Year's Eve. Carroll and her co-defendant, Zachary Page, led the effort to obtain and build the bombs and to recruit others to join in their plot. Carroll's bomb plot was explicit. It included a step-by-step instructions to build IEDs or improvised explosive devices and listed multiple targets across Orange County and Los Angeles. Carroll also made clear her desires. She said, quote, "What we are doing will be considered a terrorist act." Carroll and Page also discussed plans for follow-up attacks after their bombings, which included plans to target ICE agents and vehicles with pipe bombs. Carroll stated that those plans would, quote, "take some of them out and scare the rest."
So there you go. Now, who was leading this? This was a group, and this group is a pro-Palestinian group. And the pro-Palestinian groups that you've seen across this country are bought and paid for by the Muslim Brotherhood and the Muslim world. And they are dangerous, dangerous people. And when you look at the amount of money, and I've talked about this on the show more times than I wish to repeat, there have been investments by Muslim countries exceeding $8 billion into the universities around the United States, and the pro-Palestinian groups have emerged ever since that's taken place. And it's amazing. There is a, I should read this to you. I think it's worth it. Give me a second here. There's a new study out. Anti-Semitism rises among younger Americans. This is what a poll shows. Yair Rosenberg's Atlantic article highlights data from the Yale Youth Poll, where 18% of 18 to 22-year-olds said Jews have negatively impacted the United States, compared to 8% overall. Among Republicans under 50 years old, 1/4 express anti-Semitic views, 6 times the rate of those over people 50 years old. So there you go. They are doing one hell of a job. And on top of that, now they're looking to carry out terror attacks here in the United States of America. And that information really made me start thinking about Australia. Seeing we covered that ad nauseum yesterday. I'm not going to go deep into that, but I wanted to reveal something to you. Information that was revealed last night. And I thought it was very, very interesting. So clearly, what happened in Australia was an Islamic terror attack. And if you look at what has happened over the last 48 hours since this happened, they being the media, and they being all the animals online, all these people who are paid to basically push Islamic ideology and try to make it sound as if the Muslim world is not based on a Quran that is evil and violent. So the man who jumped in and grabbed the gun away from one of the shooters, he never wound up shooting at the man. So he grabs the gun from the shooter, and then, I mean, there had to be a couple of things that went through his mind. Either A, he didn't know how to shoot the gun. B, he didn't want to shoot his fellow Muslim. C, he was so damn afraid that if he did shoot and kill the terrorist, that he still would wind up going to jail for the rest of his life, because that's how these woke governments work. But regardless of what it is, he has been anointed a hero, even though by not shooting the villain, by not keeping him at bay and saying, hey, get down on the ground now or I shoot you to death, he let him go. And so that shooter went back up on the bridge, grabbed another weapon, and just started firing. So to name this guy as somebody heroic versus somebody brave, I mean, I'm not going to deny this guy has a level of bravery that is just amazing. But that was not his Muslim kicking in. That was his humanity kicking in. That was his adrenaline kicking in. But what's amazing to me is that the entire internet and news media will point out, they will go out of their way, the Muslim man who saved lives by grabbing the gun. They're just not going to call him the man. It's the Muslim man. They'll point out the religion when they want to paint them as a hero. But the two guys who sprayed bullets into a crowd of Jews, they're not called the Muslim men or the Islamic men. They're just two men, a father and son team. So it's amazing how it is that this works, right? You could take the Muslim out of the terrorist, but you got to keep the Muslim in the hero. It's just so freaking pathetic. And one of the things I showed you yesterday, and I'll play a reminder of it, Ryan, chalk up the video from yesterday. The Prime Minister, Mr. Albanese, this guy is sickening. He called for gun control when this was all over, not Muslim control, not we should significantly downgrade the amount of Muslims and Islamic, mosques and everything else that we have in our country of Australia. You know, and Australia used to have like a white person only rule. I'm basically watering it down in terms of what it was really called. But going back in the 1950s, the Prime Minister of Australia used to all the time be called a racist. And he says, I don't find myself being a racist. I don't want to have the problems that Europe has. I don't want to have the problems that America is starting to have of having all this multicultural come in there. Australians are going to stay Australians. And it was, it was a white nation for a long time. And now, over the last 50 years, they have gone insanely Muslim. I mean, they have now about 1 million or 1 million more Muslims in that country. It was just sprung on them. But not only did this Albanese focus in on the guns, I had showed you that just months earlier, he put out a press conference and a message that said that the Islamophobia in Australia was ridiculous, that people were not in harm's way because of Islam, and that Islamophobia had to be stamped out. Here's a reminder of what he said yesterday. Play.
Australians should be able to feel safe and at home in any community. The targeting of Australians based on their religious beliefs is not only an attack on them, but it's an attack on our core values. We must stamp out the hate, fear and prejudice that drives Islamophobia and division in our society.
Yeah, so that he didn't say that yesterday. We played that yesterday. He said that a couple of months before. But now, so this is going to blow your mind. It turns out to be that Albanese is anti-Jew, pro-Palestine. Oh, yeah. Sky News did a whole 10-minute investigation on this guy last night. And I'm going to give you the first minute about this guy's past before he became prime minister. Take a listen.
Well, tonight, to our continuing expose of Anthony Albanese's history as a pro-Palestinian activist. I can reveal Albanese met with the late Palestinian president, Yasser Arafat, 2 years before he, Albanese, protested against Israel during the Second Intifada. And that was the violent Palestinian uprising that included terror attacks. Our now Prime Minister took part in a rally in Sydney where Israeli and American flags were burned. Albanese also met with Arafat, the terrorist turned president of the PLO, in Ramallah 2 years earlier in 1998. Unlike other politicians who met with Arafat, Albanese did not meet the Israeli Prime Minister at the time, it was Benjamin Netanyahu, or the Israeli President, Ezer Weizmann, on his trip to the Middle East. Albanese was on a trip sponsored by the Palestine Liberation Organization, and it was all expenses paid, including flights and accommodation. Sources who knew Albanese at the time told me he was starry-eyed and fawning at the prospect of meeting Yasser Arafat. Here is a photograph that captured that moment. You can see Albanese sitting on the far left of the screen. Next to him is a former Labor MP, Leo McClay, who was strongly anti-Israel. Then in the centre, there's Arafat.
So there you go. Is that a little strange? Or is it par for the course? See, this is where when people say that America, or I should say differently, that the U.S. government was involved in 9/11, that it was, an inside job. And when people really question why it is that we're taking in so many people, I mean, think about this for 1 second. Why would Democrats or Republicans for that nature want to take in a huge amount of people from third world countries, and especially when those third world countries are against many of the things that Democrats are for? LGBTQ, women's rights. Makes no sense. So you start to believe that, yes, maybe there is an inside job, but the inside job could be connected back to putting people in place who have very shady backgrounds and who are imports from other nations, who don't have decades and decades and decades of family lineage. I mean, you get somebody who's a fourth generation, fifth generation, sixth generation American. They have people in their family who fought for this country, who built this country with both hands. These other people are coming in here and they just expect they want what they want. They have really there's no better look than Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar will get up there and tell you right off the bat that she is there to protect the Somali people, that the Somalia is her homeland, that the president of Somalia is her president, and all she does is just bash the United States of America on a daily basis. That's her whole thing. So the fact that we keep on taking in this level of people just doesn't make any sense. But ultimately, what does make sense is that they get into positions of power. And that's when these inside jobs go. So you got to ask yourself about what happened in Australia when your prime minister is pro-Palestine, pro-Arafat, Muslim as far as I'm concerned, speaking about Islamophobia and that people aren't going to have a problem. And then he's got this massacre on his hands. And what does he do? He calls it an anti-Semitic attack that we need to control guns. If that doesn't sound like somebody who closed their eyes and turned a blind eye to the assault and to the activism against Jews, I don't know what is. And we have that here in the United States of America. And it's infiltrated our courts. It has infiltrated our law enforcement. It has infiltrated our U.S. government. And it is now woven into the fabric. It's like trying to take a stain out of a cashmere sweater. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. and the stain just keeps on getting bigger. Now, to that level, I'm happy to be able to give you two positive reports about Trump and this administration. Very, very happy about it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to tell you yesterday, right after the show, President Trump put in an executive order to list fentanyl, which is a leading cause of death for people between 18 and 44 years old. I mean, fentanyl's bad stuff, man. But he declared it now a weapon of mass destruction. Here is President Trump announcing it yesterday during his press conference.
Today, I'm taking one more step to protect Americans from the scourge of deadly fentanyl flooding into our country. With this historic executive order I will sign today, we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, which is what it is. No bomb does what this is doing. 200 to 300,000 people die every year that we know of. So we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction.
So let me give you a couple bullet points that I wrote down here, sent it so I wouldn't forget. Let me give you a couple reasons why that is a very important designation, and it's going to help him incredibly. And I can tell you probably how that came about. Trump's blowing up these boats in the middle of the Atlantic as they're coming off and heading towards America from Venezuela. And of course, the Democrats are giving him a hard time, and that's going to lead to the courts, and they're going to try to make him stop doing what he's doing, and he's trying to protect the United States from fentanyl. Now, I understand many people, the naysayers, will say, we get very little drugs from Venezuela in comparison to that of the cartels in Mexico. You are not going to get an argument here from me. But as far as I'm concerned, if we could stop them before we get to Florida, I'm more than happy. You know, doing something is better than doing nothing. And so by making this designation, there's a couple of things that you need to know. First of all, it mobilizes military and national security resources. So it allows the Pentagon to assist the Department of Justice with assets using weapons of mass destruction, counter-proliferation intelligence for smuggling networks. So it leads a whole new robust team, if you will, to try to stop this from happening. It also makes it so this way, if you do get nailed for fentanyl, like Perez's nephew, you will have harsher penalties and prosecutions because it frames trafficking as a weapon of mass destruction. It enables more coordinated federal response where you're going to be going to federal prison for a lot longer. I think one of the most important things is it does put an incredible amount of pressure on China. Now, Xi Jinping told Trump that he was going to do all he could to stop the fentanyl process and the garbage from coming over into Mexico and working with the cartels to poison our people. So it will be very interesting because we could put now new sanctions on Chinese entities and financial institutions to force those crackdowns. And so China is going to have to find another way. It also supports actions against the drug boats. Yes, builds on cartel terrorist designations, justifies military strikes on smuggling vessels as threats delivering a chemical weapon. So the Democrats and the courts are going to have a whole lot of trouble trying to stop Trump and Pete Hegseth from what it is that they've been doing to protect the American people. And so it also directs DHS and state treasury to target foreign networks with full spectrum tools, treating fentanyl as a national security chemical threat. So Trump is doing all he can to try to protect you. And I believe wholeheartedly that if Trump did not have his hands tied by the Congress and the courts, we would have already been in Mexico going after Mexican cartels. But the problem is that the Mexicans are going to deem that as an act of war, and you cannot have an act of war like Trump wants to go at it without having all of Congress involved. So there is a legal component here that keeps Trump's hands tied So he's using all the little tiny nuances he can to try to keep you safe. And I can tell you as an American citizen, I am very, very proud of my president and happy that he's trying to do all he can in that capacity when it comes to fentanyl. The other thing that has really been significant, I know I've noticed it the last 2 times I've been to the pump, is that now 38 states in the United States have gas prices that are now under $3 a gallon. So not only does that help a lot, but it's helping a lot during Christmas. So it has sort of a double prong positive. Number one is it definitely cuts down costs for the American citizen and taxpayer. Number two, it's going to definitely boost the economy because when people have some extra money, yes, they're going to pay down some bills. Yes, they're going to put more money into gift giving because we are a generous people and people do want to celebrate and people do want to express their love for others by giving gifts during the holiday season, whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas. And so it's sort of like, okay, this is going to be really good. The problem with this is going to be because there has to be a negative side to it, right? And so if we don't address the negative side to it, just like I said yesterday, if we don't address the enemy as, radical or Islamic, extremism, and that is at the bottom. I'd like to have somebody just come up and say, it's Islamic terrorism. It's that simple. We don't need those precursors of the extremists or the radical. Just call it for what it is, because if you don't call it for what it is, you can't fix the problem. You can't stop the enemy. And so you have to identify what problems we're going to have. And so with the gas prices coming down now and people going out and spending because they may be getting a little bit of a false sense of, all right, things are starting to loosen up a little bit. The interest rates are going down a little bit and the gas is going down. Oh, good. We still have credit card debt of $1.23 trillion with 24% of Americans not knowing how it is that they're going to pay down their existing debt and a default rate that's tickling right around 10%. So this is not a good situation. It's not something that we can carry going forward and thinking that the economy is going to shine, that people are going to have extra, and that we'll win the midterms. But I will tell you what I think is going to be the crushing blow unless President Trump surrounds himself with some new people. Because I don't necessarily blame Trump here. I blame the GOP. And I go back to what I said the other day. And it's funny, this little clip that I did, the morning video I did about a coup. I believe that there is a coup in the GOP against Trump. I really do. I believe it with all my heart. And I posted it up and it went viral. So much so that people were ripping off my video. I've been watched millions and millions of times on TikTok. Then they're copying the TikTok video and they're putting it on X. I mean, the video has probably been watched a total of 10 million times. And there is a coup against Trump. Now, Trump is not going to sit there and be, the professor of all things Obamacare and healthcare. He just knows what people are telling him in terms of the voting blocks. The Dennis Michael Lynches, the Sues, the Bills, the Joes, the Cathys, that are all saying, I can't afford Obamacare. I can't afford healthcare premiums. I can't afford Medicaid. I can't afford any of it. The prices are going up. So Trump sits there and he says to the GOP, what are we going to do about this? Come on, guys, it's been forever. We gotta replace Obamacare. And the GOP comes up with nothing. Now, there's so many different things that we can do to make this better. And we're going to talk about it here in the next 10, 15 minutes of the show. We're going to end the show here on healthcare because there's a real significant problem. I told you yesterday that, we pay $3,300 a month right now because my wife and myself as well. I mean, my main practitioner is connected with a concierge program at Mayo Clinic, but my wife needs special doctors. And we do it through Mayo because everything else around here is just like a dog hospital. In fact, I told you, yes, over the weekend, my daughter, Kelly, wound up having a shoulder injury during a lacrosse game. We went into the hospital, and it was easily a 3-hour wait. And all I did was I looked down, and I saw the third world. And I said, this is crazy. I'm going to have to wait 3 hours because of these people are here. So Trump is sitting there and he's using advisors and he's using GOP senators and House members to say, we need to do something. We need to do some fixing here for the American people. And he's getting back horrible advice. He's getting back terrible, terrible suggestions by people who I believe want him done. They want him out. And they know that this is going to be the number one biggest problem because, look, gasoline at $3.20 a gallon versus $2.80 a gallon, yeah, it's significant. You're going to save yourself, what, 10, 15, 20%. But it's still, at the end of the day, it's 40 cents, right? If you get 10 gallons in your tank, all right, you saved $4. Do that 5 times in a month, you saved yourself $20. It's significant, but insignificant at the same time. But when you sit here and you say that you have a healthcare premium that went from $3,300 to $4,800, because that's where we're at now starting January without the subsidies, we go from $3,300 to $4,800. And my daughter, who's a 27-year-old trying to start a life, she's going from $200 on an individual plan to $600. This is, you cannot sustain this. This is problematic. This is going to collapse this economy in such a way that I don't think anybody sat down with Trump and explained this to him. So this is my job today. I'm going to explain this to you because it is a horror. It is a horror what's going to happen. First of all, understand this. Over 100 million people in the United States get their health care from, they have health insurance. Most of that is all from the company that you work for. Well, these companies are all seeing the increase. So what happens when you got a company and you're putting incredible increases of 10, 15, 20, 25, 30% on them for premiums? They are going to do one of multiple things. Now, and maybe all of them collectively. Number one, they're going to start making some layoffs. Number two, they're not going to be able to give out any raises. Number three, they're going to charge their employees more money that they have to kick in, which means that Joe and Susie are taking home less pay. This is a disaster about to happen. Now, what I would do if I were the GOP and I wanted to protect Trump and his presidency and the midterms, I would go into him and say, Mr. President, listen to me. We know Obamacare is riddled with fraud. We understand that the illegals are getting they're getting payments from the states. We understand the fraud of Obamacare is insane. We've already painted this out. In fact, I have something here. Mike Johnson was just on Fox News last night. A new report just revealed the staggering fraud taking place in the Affordable Care Act, the Unaffordable Care Act, he calls it. Huge amounts paid to insurance companies for countless thousands of people who do not exist. $94 million was sent to insurers for the deceased people, and 68,000 Social Security numbers used by multiple people to cheat the system. We get it. We know there's fraud. But let's not pretend that Mike Johnson and his buddies there in Congress want this fixed. Because if they did, they would have kept Doge in place. They would have done everything they possibly could to keep Doge in place. So what they like is they like to throw out to you the fraud numbers. They like to tell you about the horrors that come along with this stuff, but they don't want to fix anything. So it just keeps on a talking point of how much the Democrats suck. And I buy into that. But at the end of the day, you could only point at the other guy so long until you, who has all the power right now, do something to fix it, to present something that the president can work with to fix it. So what I would tell the president is, listen, Mr. President, put me in charge of this. Let me run with this. I'm going to get you a plan. I am going to get you a solution that you could present to the American people. Instead of just saying Obamacare sucks, let's tell them what's good and let's get something together. Give me 6 months and then another 6 months to get this thing implemented and get the votes together. But just for now, just let the subsidies stay in place. I know it's horrible. I know it sucks. I know it's fraud-ridden. But you are going to collapse your own economy because the Dennis Michael Lynches of the world are not going to be able to pay $4,800 a month and put money into other things. He's going to cut back on everything. The Ashley Lynches of the world cannot go from $200 to $600. She's going to cut back. And we can't have businesses having premiums that are going to cost them an extra 20% across the law. We just can't do it, sir. And I think the president comes to me and says, okay, I'll give you 6 months. And in 6 months, if I don't come back with something, my career in politics, my career altogether needs to be ruined. Somebody has got to take this and run with this to the president of the United States. Look at the chart here on the side. You want to know why? You know, it's easy for Mike Johnson to tell you that this is all because of fraud. This is all because of fraud. You're paying so much money because of fraud. Fraud is a component of it. Let me tell you what another component of it. I just told you about my experience in the emergency room. Okay? We've got 20, 30, 40 million illegal aliens in this country. They are uninsured. They are going in and using the hospital system as their primary care physician. And so that unpaid for medical bill is being absorbed by you, the taxpayer, you, the premium payer. Somebody's got to pay it. Somebody's got to pay it. So that's number one, the illegal aliens. So until Trump puts in mandatory E-Verify and cuts off the jobs, we're not going anywhere. And I just read a report. Now, it came from News Nation, so I don't know how accurate it is. But News Nation says that they've spoke to people within the Department of Homeland Security and that they are going to be changing their approach to immigration enforcement. Instead of going to the Home Depots and doing those raids that we've all seen, now they're just going to simply go back to try to get the hardened criminals. The hardened criminals are bad people. They're bad hombres. But at the end of the day, they're not the ones driving up our costs, okay? What's driving up our costs are the $40 million day laborers who are here, who are living off the teat of the taxpayer. And until you cut that off, everybody's going to wind up paying for double what they should be paying for, whether it's the education system or the healthcare system. There's no way around that. There's nobody who can make an argument against it. I've got it nailed. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know how it works. The other part is that we are being gouged. Some things that you need to know. These are very interesting put together facts. In fact, my morning video kind of highlighted this stuff. I'm going to show you this. And I did this in my morning video this morning. Maybe you've seen it. Here's Bayer low-dose aspirin. There are 300 tablets in here. 300 tablets. On Amazon, at the highest price, there's a lot of people selling this, at the highest price, $15. So I'm going to put worst case scenario, $15. You go to Costco, you buy it in bulk, you could buy it for $8 or $9. So you know the hospitals are buying this in bulk. They're probably buying the whole bottle for $5, $4, $3 at most. If you did the $15 example, 300 tablets. Each one of these tablets is 5 cents. But if you go to the hospital today, God forbid, and you are given a low-dose aspirin, your bill is going to reflect $20. So think about this. This is worth to a hospital $6,000 at a cost of $5. They are basically making $6,000, and they're going to give these 300 tablets. These are going to be gone basically in an hour or two. They're going to give it to you even if you don't need it because there's so much profit wrapped up in this. You strip the profit out of this and people aren't going to be giving this out like candy. You strip the profit out of this and your bills are going to go down significantly. So there's gouging at a level that is just absolutely insane. Now, the other thing you need to know, Mike Johnsons of the world and all these other different people, they are being bought and paid for to leave Obamacare in there. Because the fact of the matter is that since Obamacare has been in place, these freaking systems, these hospital systems, these insurance systems, they're making so much money. So much money. Let me tell you, I have it here. Here it goes. Since Obamacare's big rollout in 2014, the 7 largest health insurers have tripled their revenues from $500 billion to $1.5 trillion. Now, those health insurers, that's their revenue of 1.5. You could see on the chart how it continues to go up, right? The 7 insurers, $71 billion in profit. So, if it was, hey, we did 1.5 billion in revenue, but, our costs were 1.6, we're losing money, then it's a different story. But they're making $71 billion in earnings. That is insane. And you and I are paying for it. To make matters worse, the Mike Johnsons of the world, last year lobbying for hospitals, insurers, and Big Pharma combined, $750 million. These lobbyists are treating these Congress people, Senate and House. They're treating them to dinners. They're treating them to parties. I saw one congressman, Burkett, somebody did a selfie yesterday coming out. He had voted on something. He said he was all pissed off. It was ridiculous. The GOP, I mean, he's slamming his own party. He says, there's a lot of parties tonight, and I'm not going to any of them. I'm not going to have a lobbyist kiss my ass. I'm going home. This is what they do. They romance these guys, and then after they do that, they fund them with donations. The last time the donations were calculated, I don't know when, this is from the last couple of years, hospitals, big pharma, and insurers have made $200 million in the last election, $200 million to donations, to political donations. This is why you're getting screwed. Because at the end of the day, Obama told you that Obamacare was going to save every human being in the United States of America $2,500 on every premium each year. That's baloney. It has increased by 129%. This is unsustainable. The problems with Obamacare, you're being charged for things you don't need. Mary doesn't need reproductive services. We're paying for them. My wife can't get pregnant. She can't have a baby. Tubes are tied. Daddy's out of business. But we're paying for it. So it is riddled with fraud. It is riddled with garbage. It is a horrible, horrible policy that or I should even say a policy. It's a horrible law that winds up making it so this way you and I are getting creamed. So if the president of the United States wants to salvage his economy, he has got to let those subsidies stay. He's got to put somebody like an Elon Musk or Dennis Michael Lynch, who is not going to screw him, who can't be bought and paid for, and says, we will fix this, Mr. President. I'll come back with 3 fixes on how we can do this and structure this as a GOP and change this around, or else we're going to get murdered for the midterms. Because let me tell you, you've heard me talk to you about how AI is going to start killing jobs. Well, this right now, what's happening in healthcare is going to collapse our system. You've got 2/3 of Americans who go into bankruptcy do so because medical bills are somehow tied to their new woe of economic failure. So you want more homeless people? You want more layoffs? You want more people defaulting on their bills? Keep on racking up these health insurance premiums and just, saying, don't worry, we're going to tariff everybody to death. It's not the way it works. President Trump needs to put somebody in charge of this. Like I said, like we have a border czar, we need a healthcare czar. And it can't be Dr. Oz, okay? He's just more concerned with looking at himself on television. Get an everyday person who understands this stuff, who isn't looking to be famous, but who would like to really do something good for the American people. That's number one. Number two, after you do that, you need to crack down on these insurers. You need to crack down on the big pharma, and you have to crack down on the hospital fraudulent stuff that's taking place. You got to get these people in your office and crack down on them on the same way that you're tariffing and cracking down on countries who have abused us forever. If you don't do that, we're screwed. We're just downright screwed. I don't see how it is that the economy in 2026 picks up with this sort of expense on people. And then the other thing you're going to have is you're going to have people who are going to go uninsured. You're going to have a lot of sick people. And then what winds up happening is that they're all going to go to the emergency room, just like the illegal aliens. And then you're going to have more unpaid bills at the hospitals. You're going to actually cause a system that is based on uninsured people in the United States using the emergency room as their primary health care system. That's what's about to happen. Mark my word, mark the video. That is what's going to happen. Now, I'm going to end this. I usually end this show when I can with the crazy left. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to reverse it. I want to play what could be a sunny day. If we took pride in this country like we once did, like the Japanese take pride in their country, if we were to cut off all the immigration and get rid of these Somalis and all the ones like them, if we were to stop the DEI hires and go back to just saying we need to be traditional America, and we showed a pride in our country, we could be shiny again. This morning, when I was preparing for the show, I was looking up some information, and this video, that was an Instagram video, jumped up on my timeline, and I actually watched it. I said, well, where is that it's so clean? Look at this video about Japan and tell me that you wouldn't like to see your America look like this again. Play it.
In Japan, cleanliness isn't a task, it's a way of life. Yes, even the garbage trucks look like they just came out of the dealership, so clean you could see your reflection in them, and that's not by accident. Every day the workers wash them before heading out because dirtying the streets would be considered disrespectful, and that respect extends to everything. Waste management there is a real science. There are specific days for each type of trash. Organic, plastic, cans, paper, and each category has its own designated bag. If you separate the trash incorrectly or miss the schedule, you cannot put the garbage out until the next collection. And the most impressive part? No one complains. Everyone does it out of mutual respect. Public bathrooms are on another level. Clean, odorless, with automatic disinfection systems and seats that clean themselves. Ramps, elevators, handrails, everything shines. Not because someone is watching, but because everyone takes care of what belongs to everyone. In Japan, cleanliness is not an obligation. It's part of their identity. And when you see this, you can't help but wonder, why don't we do the same?
Yeah, that can be done. Where there's a will, there's a way. And don't tell me there can't be, because remember this. The U.S. government had a will to shut you down and keep you in your house during COVID. Don't ever forget how the highways went clean, how the highways went empty, how everything was spotless. We could get it like that again. There's got to be a determination. There's got to be a will. It's out there. Don't give up on it. I never give up on America. If I gave up on America, I'd be retired right now. I wouldn't be back in the saddle here again. And I was reading one comment on, I think it was on X. It says, stop blaming the illegals. Here's the thing. I don't blame the illegals. I blame the U.S. government for allowing the illegals to stay. I don't want to blame the illegals. I want to rid of them. I want to deport them and send them home. And then I can never blame an illegal again. Until the next time, God willing tomorrow, may He bless you, your family, and the United States of America. We'll talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.